What if I told you that the trade wars and tariffs coming from the United States might actually be the best thing to ever happen to Africa's economy? Sounds crazy, right? You know how our grandparents say, when the winds of change blow, some build walls while others build windmills? Well, right now, America is building walls with its tariffs. But here in Africa, we're learning to build windmills. In this video, I'm going to show you how what looks like a global crisis might actually be Africa's golden opportunity that could open new doors for African businesses like never before. For decades, we've been told that Africa needs aid, foreign investment, and Western trade deals to develop. But what if that dependency is actually holding the continent back? Like a young eagle that never leaves the nest, we've been comfortable, but unable to soar. In the next 20 minutes, I'll show you how US tariffs are accidentally creating the perfect conditions for Africa to build something incredible: economic independence. By the end of this video, you'll understand why disruptions in global trade are a hidden opportunity, how the African Continental Free Trade Area is a game changer, and why African businesses must look back at this moment as the push they needed. Stay till the end, because I'll share 6 practical steps you can take to tap into this shift, even as a small business without big money or connections. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss videos that help you leap ahead. But first, let's get something straight about what's actually happening with these tariffs. Global news says the economy is slowing down. But what does that really mean for Africa? Let me break down these tariffs in a way that actually makes sense. So what exactly are we talking about when we say US tariffs? Tariffs are basically extra taxes on products coming into a country. Think of them as a toll booth at the border that makes foreign products more expensive. US tariffs refers to the tariff spikes announced by the Donald Trump administration in April 2025. These tariffs vary across countries, with China being the most hit after it retaliated. Right now, the US has placed huge tariffs on Chinese goods of up to 145% on some products that used to have only 7.5% tariffs before April 2025. These tariffs affect about $500 billion worth of trade between the US and China. That's more than 15 times the entire GDP of Kenya. Why? To protect American jobs and industries. Most experts see these tariffs as bad news for global trade, and they're not wrong. Experts predict a potential reduction of up to 40% in US imports from China for the year 2025. But here's the thing most people are missing. When trade flows change, new opportunities emerge. When the US makes it harder to import cheap Chinese goods, it creates gaps in supply chains. And guess who can step in to fill those gaps? That's right, Africa. Countries that don't have these high tariffs suddenly have a price advantage. Every shakeup leaves a gap, and every gap is a new door to walk through. Here's why Africa is perfectly positioned to win big in this situation. Even though many African countries don't sell directly to the US, they are part of the global supply chain. So when two big trading partners fight, smaller countries can step in and fill the gaps. Tariffs don't just hurt trade, they shift trade, and smart countries will use those shifts to grow. Key points to note are: US companies are desperately looking for new suppliers that aren't hit by these tariffs. In 2024, over 60% of US companies reported they're actively seeking non-Chinese suppliers, up from just 20% in 2022. African exports to the US grew 17% last year, twice the growth rate of other regions. Countries like Kenya, Ghana, and Morocco have seen their US exports jump by over 25% since the tariff increases. Sectors to watch include textiles and fashion in Kenya, Lesotho, Madagascar, mining and minerals in Zambia, DRC, and Zimbabwe, agriculture in Ghana, Nigeria, Tanzania, manufacturing and assembly in South Africa, Rwanda. Listen, the best time to enter a market is when your competitors are suddenly at a disadvantage. Action tip: if you run a business, think about how your product or service can fill global supply chain gaps. Want to tap into the US market? Download your free Africa Export Playbook 2025. Link in the description. Africa is primed to emerge as the world's next manufacturing powerhouse. Across the continent, Businesses are declaring, we no longer need to depend on distant nations or import subpar foreign products. We can manufacture our own goods and successfully export them. Here's why this transformation is happening. When US tariffs escalate the cost of Chinese goods, companies seek alternative production locations. Africa offers precisely what they require. A vibrant, expanding workforce, Africa boasts a remarkably young population with a median age of just 19.7 years. Competitive labor costs, manufacturing wages in Ethiopia, are approximately 1/10 of China's. Extensive raw material reserves. Progressively improving infrastructure. This isn't mere speculation. The shift is already underway. Since 2022, manufacturing investment in Africa has surged by 47%, with Ethiopia, Nigeria, Rwanda, and Morocco emerging as frontrunners. Consider Nigeria's remarkable trajectory. The country has experienced a substantial 34% increase in local manufacturing startups since 2020. Inosan Motors now produces vehicles that successfully compete with international brands, bolstered by import tariffs that make foreign cars prohibitively expensive. In Ethiopia, textile exports are expanding as global brands diversify their supply chains beyond Asia. International retailers like H&M have significantly expanded their manufacturing presence. Morocco has seen mobile parts production grow by 31% in 2023, while Rwanda attracted a $300 million investment from Taiwanese tech giant Foxconn in January 2024. The country's clothing industry has generated over 7,500 new jobs by prioritizing local production. Across the continent, entrepreneurs are transforming raw materials into finished products, not just exporting crops, but building robust indigenous brands. This moment calls for strategic investment in local manufacturing capabilities. Critical insights. Rising import tariffs create opportunities for local African manufacturers. Local manufacturing employment has accelerated 14% faster in countries actively replacing imports. A 10% increase in local manufacturing typically triggers a 2 to 3% GDP growth. Manufacturing output potential stands at $1 trillion by 2030. An estimated 30 million people could escape extreme poverty by 2030. The fundamental lesson: international trade barriers are a catalyst for domestic industrial development, creating a protective environment for local businesses to innovate and strengthen their competitive position. Call to action: know an inspiring African business driving local manufacturing? Celebrate them in the comments. Let's amplify homegrown success stories. Now, here comes the game changer that most people aren't talking about enough. The African Continental Free Trade Area, or AFCFTA, is the largest free trade area created since the World Trade Organization to make it easier to buy, sell, and move goods across African borders. It connects 54 countries with a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion and a population of 1.3 billion people. Think about that. That's a market larger than India. One of the biggest problems Africa faced for years: we traded more with Europe and America than we did with each other. That's now changing. Before AfCFTA, if a business in Kenya wanted to sell products in Nigeria, they faced tariffs averaging 35%. Now, those tariffs are being eliminated. The numbers are mind-blowing. Intra-African trade is projected to increase by 52% by 2025 and to grow by over $130 billion by 2030, according to the African Development Bank. But here's the crucial part: US tariffs and global trade disruptions are actually accelerating this process. With global supply chains disrupted, African businesses are looking inward and finding other African countries as both suppliers and customers. Take the story of Kemi Adewumi, who runs a food processing company in Nigeria. When import costs for packaging from China rose by 40% due to global supply chain issues, she found a supplier in Kenya. Not only did this keep her costs stable, but the money stayed within Africa. This is happening across industries, from textiles to pharmaceuticals to electronics. The lesson: sometimes protection elsewhere creates opportunity at home, and when Africa buys from Africa, everyone wins. We grow stronger together, and the world starts paying attention. Are you seeing more African-made products in your local shops? Let us know where you're watching from, and post a pic of the product from another African country that is in your local shops. If someone controls your food, your power, and your money, are you really free? For too long, Africa has been dependent on Western markets, Chinese investment, and on outside countries for basic things like medicine, tech, and even food. But now, with global trade under pressure, we have to learn to stand on our own. Before recent shifts, over 80% of African exports went to non-African countries. When those markets sneeze, Africa catches a cold. During the 2008 financial crisis, Sub-Saharan Africa's growth rate fell from 7.1% to 2.6% in just 1 year. Why? Because they were too dependent on Western markets. But here's the hook. US tariffs are forcing a rethink of this dependency model. Rather than seeing tariffs as a problem, forward-thinking African leaders are seeing them as an opportunity to build self-sufficiency. Recent data shows this shift is working. Intra-African trade grew by 24% in 2023. Local sourcing of raw materials increased by 18%, and African consumer brands gained market share in 27 of 54 countries. Let me give you a concrete example that blew my mind. Before the pandemic, Africa imported 94% of its pharmaceuticals. When global supply chains broke down, people suffered. But countries like Kenya, South Africa, and Morocco responded by ramping up local production. Today, Africa produces 25% more pharmaceuticals than in 2019. Companies like Aspen Pharmacare in South Africa are now making vaccines for the African market. This isn't just good economics, it's life-saving self-reliance. And across the continent, digital tools like mobile money and blockchain are helping farmers and small businesses grow without needing foreign banks. The lesson: true independence isn't just about flags or leaders. It's about being able to take care of your own people. Hit like if you believe in an Africa that builds, grows, and leads for itself. Guess who has the youngest, fastest growing workforce on Earth? Africa's secret weapon isn't oil or gold. It is its people. Over 60% of Africa's population is under 25. That's hundreds of millions of future workers, thinkers, builders, and leaders. While other regions are aging, Africa is getting younger. That means more talent, more ideas, and more innovation, ready to build for the world. And when factories look for cheaper, smarter labor outside of China, Africa is rising on the map. Africa's people are the opportunity. If we train, support, and invest in them, we don't just catch up, we leap ahead. Tag a young African entrepreneur below. Let's celebrate the builders of tomorrow. You don't need to be a president or billionaire to win from this shift. Really, you ask? Yes, really. So how can you benefit from the tariff shakeup? Let me show you exactly how smart African businesses can cash in on this situation right now. The businesses that will win in the developing trade landscape aren't waiting for perfect conditions. They're taking action while others hesitate. Practical steps for success include: 1. Focus on products where China faced the highest tariff increases: furniture, electronics, textiles. 2. Partner with US import experts who understand customs rules. 3. Using technology is key. 76% of successful exporters use digital tools to connect with international buyers without expensive travel. And African businesses using AI-powered market analysis tools are 3.2 times more likely to identify new export opportunities in 2025 and beyond. 4. Internationally recognized quality certifications serve as a powerful differentiator for African businesses aiming to export, assuring US and other African markets of product standards and reliability, thereby building trust and facilitating access to these competitive markets. 5. Diversification matters. Companies selling to at least 3 different countries saw 43% more stable revenue during economic shocks. Similarly, diversify suppliers to avoid getting blocked. 6. Join Pan-African networks. Trade is growing across borders. Join platforms like Anka, Africrea, or Jumia to sell across countries, not just your city. The lesson: the big shift isn't just about governments. It's about people like you and me, seeing the signs and taking action. The winners won't be the biggest companies, but the ones who adapt fastest. Comment "I'm ready" if you're going to take one action this week to tap into Africa's potential. It's no longer time to play catch-up. It's time for Africa to set the pace. This transcends profit margins. It's about fundamentally repositioning Africa within the global economic ecosystem. We're witnessing the emergence of African sovereignty, resilience, and opportunity. Consider these transformative shifts. Africa is evolving beyond its historical role as merely a resource provider. We're becoming creators of sophisticated finished products. Nations that develop robust manufacturing capabilities consistently experience 30 to 40% reductions in poverty within a single generation. African Development Bank forecasts suggest our current manufacturing trajectory could generate 85 million new jobs continent-wide by 2030. Each export dollar multiplies into approximately $3 of economic activity within local communities. Tomorrow's Africa. Envision Africa as the premier global source for electric vehicle batteries, distinctive fashion, and premium organic food. This transformation is already unfolding in Rwanda, Ghana, and Morocco. Picture an Africa manufacturing its own smartphones, automobiles, and medical technologies. Imagine African brands achieving international recognition and African enterprises establishing global standards rather than merely adopting them. Strategic cross-border partnerships will prove decisive. Our path forward requires startups and manufacturers to forge alliances across national boundaries, building regional supply networks independent of Western or Eastern influence. Remember this wisdom. These economic realignments represent rare opportunities. The nations, enterprises, and individuals who capitalize on this moment will author tomorrow's success stories. Ready to scale your business in this dynamic landscape? Subscribe to Africa Leap for weekly business intelligence and opportunity alerts. Download your complimentary export strategy guide. Explore senso.tech, your partner for intelligent, scalable business solutions, and join our premier community for exclusive content on navigating global trade opportunities. To learn more about African investment opportunities or supporting African enterprises, explore the links below and contact us directly. Thank you for watching, and remember, the most significant opportunities often masquerade as challenges. Until next time, stay innovative, stay optimistic, and always leap forward.